Podcasting from Brooklyn, New York, this is the Brooklyn Baritone Podcast. On this fine morning, I'm recording this podcast, but whenever you choose to listen and join me, doesn't matter, morning, afternoon, evening, nighttime, late at night, I appreciate the likes, the looks, the listens, but of course, I'd appreciate you hitting that subscribe and notification bell on my YouTube channel, Brooklyn Baritone. Of course, do that if you want to, no pressure, though I would like the algorithm to swing in my favor. We're going to talk about terrorism today, actually, how I coined it, social terrorism. And there's so much things that's been popping off, that's been going on, especially these recent times and years, that I don't think we realize in general that we've been victims of the social terrorism. Let's get down to the meat and potatoes of the definition. Of course, I'm going to start with definition of terrorism. The unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians in the pursuit of political aims. Right? We know of violence. I want to break down intimidation, because it's not violence all the time. We have the intimidation portion. Now, to intimidate, to frighten or overawe someone, especially in order to make them do what one wants. Frighten or overawe. We know what frighten is. Some of us don't know what overawe is. We'll break that down too. To overawe, to impress upon someone so much that they become silent or inhibited, is the key stuff. That's the good stuff right there. Now, can you think, in our recent history, especially in this country, especially in the world over, I mean, it's always been happening, but especially now, how much people have been silenced or inhibited? Does the term cancel culture mean anything? Does the term spreading misinformation mean anything? People's accounts have been suspended. People's accounts have been banned. Many people have been forced to go to other platforms to speak what they have to say. Now, I am not condoning you just saying whatever it is that you want, because you already know me. I understand that speech is a power that we need to be responsible with. I don't feel that you should just be saying anything destructive or anything just to gain any type of compensation, money, status, clout, whatever it is. I don't condone that whatsoever. A word should be used to build up or share information. Now, I'm talking about the latter, which has been always seemed to be silenced and questioned. And unfortunately, so many people go off of what was popular opinion, what's been manufactured as popular opinion. And then we don't realize that we take part in social terrorism by intimidating, silencing, and inhibiting people that aren't causing harm. They aren't doing anything destructive. They're not doing anything long-term destructive, like breaking down society. And that's a whole nother can of beans I could talk about, but I'm not going to today. I'm specifically talking about social terrorism, where many people's accounts have been suspended. People have gotten strikes, have been warnings. People's gotten strikes on their accounts because they may have put information that went against the popular narrative, unfortunately. And I'm talking about yours truly as well, because I've gotten a strike for supposedly privately having information, legit information, credible information from credible sources about this whole COVID management globally and in this country, of course. It's crazy how so much things have been silenced and what's allowed to be put out there. And then a lot of things that are being put out there is not wholehearted truth. And it's frightening. Yes, it's very disappointing and it can be disheartening, but one can't ever stop pursuing the actual truth and not only just learning about it, but also sharing it, however, whenever they can. It's our God-given duty. Now, going back to terrorism, the unlawful act of violence and intimidation. There are many things, we have to get this clear, many things that are technically legal and lawful that are highly immoral and highly unethical. There are many things that are illegal that are moral and are ethical. So we have to understand what the language is of the lawmakers. Do you want to call them the elites, call them the lawmakers, call them the oppressors, whatever it is, the people that make and influence the law? We have to understand their language. We also have to understand that, like I just said, many laws are unethical and immoral. So what do we do about that? Well, we have to go, of course, we need order to sustain ourselves. Our bodies are run on order. Our infrastructures are run on order. We need order to not to survive, but thrive, but to live as well. We look at another standard. What I see, if one thing is lawful, you could follow it. But then at the same time, I look, on the other hand, is it in line with what our Creator has? He already has his laws. We know the laws. We could look it up. You can hit me up if you don't understand what the laws are. So I also look at that being lawful as well. That's my concrete foundation, titanium, adamantium, whatever strongest substance you could probably think of stronger than that. That's my foundation for what I use for law. And anything else above that, okay, cool. The man makes law and it's cool, right? I'll go along with it as long as it doesn't violate. Now, we have to understand that many people who wish to censor people are the ones that want to push their own agenda that's destructive. There are many credible sources that I've seen that have been railroaded, that have been suspended, that had to go run to other platforms. And unfortunately, we don't realize that social terrorism has taken over us because we're so much clamoring just to make it to the next day. We just want to provide for our family. We just don't want any trouble. We want all the nice things. We can't have nice things if people are out here breaking the law and you are an accomplice, basically. And it's not just man's law, it's also the law of the Creator. So we have to understand that the information that's being put out there, there's so much more to it. It's good to get info from one source, but then you have to be a detective. We all have to be a true journalist and find out, take a step back and look at the bigger picture for everything. Have you been an accomplice in social terrorism? Have you helped cancel people? Have you shut people out? Have you misjudged people based on their stance because of what your understanding is? Is your understanding all there is and that's it? Is it just adamantly the truth? How do you know this? Have you gone out of your box? We can't afford to allow social terrorism to continue terrorizing us, because the more that is the norm, the more freedoms and liberties and even luxuries are getting chipped away, and then we will find ourselves into a corner where we're willing to do whatever that we need to do to hold on to a few crumbs that they want to kick our way. That's all I want to say. I don't want to talk too much about this. Anyways, you want to get more of my content, you could visit my website at brooklynbaritone.com. You could even check out some merch to see if anything is there that you would like. I guarantee you there's something there you'd like to pick up. You could also see more of my video content on my YouTube channel, Brooklyn Baritone. I'm also on LinkedIn under Corey Ashley. I'm also on Instagram and on Facebook. You can find the audio versions of these podcasts on Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts, and other various podcast platforms. I also air on local Brooklyn cable television 4 times a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 12 a.m. and 2 p.m. on Verizon, Optimum, RCN, and Spectrum. Thank you guys for listening. I want you guys to just don't support terrorists. We don't negotiate with the terrorists. Do you understand? Remember that saying? Anyways, be blessed, Walker. You'll hear from me next week.